Kratos' mental state is weakening him, and it's something we've seen develop over time. Think about it. In God of War 2018, after his battle with Baldur, Kratos struggles to walk back to his hut. By the end of the game, he even hints at his growing exhaustion when he tells Atreus they need to wrap things up.
I should finish this journey while I still have strength.
Fast forward to God of War Ragnarok, and after his fight with Thor, you can see Kratos holding his stomach, visibly tired. Thor even kills him during the fight, and later in the game we see Kratos falling asleep from fatigue. Now think about the younger Kratos. This level of exhaustion would have been unimaginable for him back then. So is Kratos getting weaker? Yes and no. Let me explain. But before I do that, don't forget to smash that like button and turn on the notification bell for more content just like this. And if you guys haven't noticed yet, I'm uploading gaming videos now, so go ahead and check those out. Anyway, let's get into it. Kratos' decline in strength isn't just physical. It's deeply rooted in his mental state. His internal conflict is immense. Haunted by his past as the ghost of Sparta, a warrior consumed by rage and vengeance, Kratos is desperate not to be seen as a monster by his son, Atreus. His guilt over the horrors he's committed drives him to suppress his anger and power, all in an attempt to prevent Atreus from following the same destructive path he once did. Kratos' fear and guilt over his past make him reluctant to unleash his full strength. He's intentionally holding back, not wanting to become the merciless warrior he once was. He knows that losing control could harm the ones he loves most, especially Atreus. His journey throughout these games isn't just a physical one, it's a profound emotional and psychological struggle. Kratos is constantly grappling with his past, trying to make better choices, and his interactions with Atreus are central to this growth. Atreus represents the chance for redemption, a chance for Kratos to break the cycle of violence and destruction that once defined him. Let's not forget that God of War 2018 explicitly highlights the consequences when a god suppresses their true nature. When a god denies who they are at their core, they don't just weaken physically, they can become vulnerable even to the point of falling ill. This is a major theme in the game, and we see a striking example of it with Atreus.
The boy has fallen ill! Freya! He is ill.
Inside. This is no ordinary illness. The boy's true nature, your true nature, fights within him.
In God of War 2018, Atreus becomes gravely ill when he's unaware of his true identity as a god. His sickness isn't due to a typical physical ailment, but a direct result of him not understanding or embracing his divine nature. His body is fighting against itself because he's living as a mortal, ignorant of the godly power that resides within him. This denial weakens him, and it's only when Kratos reveals Atreus' true heritage, that he is part god, that Atreus begins to recover. The game makes it clear. Gods are not meant to deny their nature. Doing so has devastating consequences both mentally and physically. Now apply this concept to Kratos. He's been actively holding back his true nature for years, suppressing the raw rage and godly power that once defined him as the ghost of Sparta. Like Atreus, this suppression comes at a cost. Kratos' reluctance to embrace his full potential is a form of self-denial. His limiting himself and this self-imposed restriction weakens him. The longer he holds back, the more we see the toll it takes on his body and spirit. The parallel between Kratos and Atreus in this context are clear. Both father and son struggle with their identities as gods, and both suffer for it in different ways. Kratos' fatigue, his hesitation in battle, and his constant emotional conflict are signs that suppressing his true nature is wearing him down, just as it did with Atreus. The game teaches us that gods must find balance within themselves, or else they risk losing the strength that comes from being true to who they are. In Kratos' case, this balance is particularly difficult because he fears becoming the monster he once was, but the reality remains, the more he suppresses his true godly nature, the more vulnerable and weakened he becomes physically, mentally, and emotionally. But how does this inner turmoil make Kratos weaker? By suppressing his rage and the immense power he possesses, Kratos is handicapping himself in battle. He no longer taps into the raw, devastating strength that once allowed him to conquer foes with ease. This restraint forces him to approach challenges with caution, making fights more exhausting and drawn out. Beyond physical strain, the emotional weight Kratos carries, the guilt, regret, and a fear of becoming a monster takes a toll on him. This mental burden can translate into physical fatigue. The stress of constantly holding back his power, coupled with the fear of losing control, drains him. Take for example his fight with Thor. Look at Kratos' expression when Thor gets under his skin and Kratos lets loose a fraction of the power he's holding back. Look at that face. Kratos is mentally shaken. He's scared of becoming the violent person he once was.
There he is. There's the god of war. Consider your blood debt paid. Be seeing you.
And look at the end of the fight between Kratos and Heimdall.
This isn't who you want to be!
Heimdall calls Kratos a monster at the end of the fight. The only time during the fight Heimdall manages to read Kratos' mind is that moment right there, because at that moment Kratos saw himself as a monster, losing control of the emotions he had worked so hard to suppress, compared to at the start of the fight when Kratos was composed and Heimdall couldn't read his mind.
What is going on in that empty little head? Oh, no. You are going to spare me out of pity!
This is the same reason Mimir shouts to Kratos, reminding him that this isn't who he wants to be. The internal battle is constant for Kratos, and it affects everything from his decision-making to his fighting style. The fear of reverting to his old ways makes him hesitant, preventing him from using the aggressive, overpowering tactics he once relied on. This hesitation leads to longer, more exhausting battles, as Kratos must rely more on defensive strategies. It's not just the physical fatigue, it's the mental exhaustion that makes things even harder. Have you ever been mentally tired and that exhaustion made you physically tired as well? It's like trying to focus on something important while a heavy negative thought is weighing on your mind. It saps your energy even if you're physically fine. Kratos is trying to keep his emotions in check at all times, and this internal conflict is the reason for his apparent weakness. But this isn't the whole story. In reality, Kratos' restraint is a sign of his growth. By controlling his power and emotions, Kratos has become more than just a warrior driven by rage. He's a more complex and mature character. He's stronger in a different way. His strength now comes from his wisdom, experience, and the lessons he's learned, not just from brute force. This makes him an even more formidable warrior, even if he doesn't always unleash his full potential. And let's not forget, Cory Barlog, the creative director of God of War 2018, confirmed it himself. Old Kratos is stronger than young Kratos.